Aaron Hernandez is no ordinary NFL superstar, and this is no ordinary story. On the one hand, this is one of the most inspiring tales you've ever heard, one where a kid from a broken home becomes the state player of the year and goes on to play for the most elite franchise in the world. But there's also a very dark story here. How a player that proved so much on the field, gaining the respect of his Hall of Fame teammates, had ended up living a double life, killing anyone who disrespected him. So it's time we dove into the truth. Welcome to the insane true story of a man that had the entire world in his hands, lost a $40 million contract, and avoided the police the entire way. This is the disturbing genius of Aaron Hernandez. July 15th, 2012. Aaron Hernandez and best friend Alexander Bradley decide to go out to a club deep within Boston. This stretch of bars has been known for years as being safe and widely guarded by police for decades. As Aaron is getting one of his first drinks, a man with braids bumps into him, spilling a few drops on him. That man, Daniel De Abreu, then smirks at him and dances away, laughing without apologizing, causing Hernandez to become angry. This had been somewhat of a problem over the years for Aaron. He had felt like people were always testing him, especially without security. After 30 minutes of Aaron giving Abreu the death stare, Bradley quietly tells Aaron they should go to a different club and forget about the interaction altogether. The two then leave the club and move to another bar across the street, but again spotted De Abreu with his group of friends and believed they were being followed. After Bradley and Hernandez return to their vehicle, Aaron pops the hood and takes out a gun he had stashed away before entering the club. Bradley, in the driver's seat, then drives around the club a few times until Hernandez spots a BMW with De Abreu and other men inside. As the silver BMW stops at a red light in front of them, Aaron shouts to pull up next to them quickly. Just at that moment, without hesitation, Aaron reaches across the driver's seat and shoots directly into the BMW. The .38 caliber revolver's trigger was pulled so many times that Bradley hears the gun click 4 times after the initial 5 shots go off right in front of him. Bradley then speeds past the red light and he and Hernandez ride off into the summer Boston night like nothing happened. As police arrive on the scene, they are completely stunned, and there was an eerie silence as the 2 passengers laid there, shot to death. Nothing like this had ever happened on this stretch of Boston, and police were eager to find any leads possible on the shooter. Just 41 days later, Aaron Hernandez signs a $40 million contract with the New England Patriots, and the double murder investigation in Boston has gone completely cold. How could someone with so much to lose commit these horrible acts of violence with what seems to be no care in the world, and then play football at a high level every weekend in front of millions of people? And the most ironic part of the Boston murders, it wasn't the first time Aaron tried to kill someone. You would think that Aaron had a tough upbringing or was raised in a harsh environment. That was the furthest from the truth. Aaron Hernandez was born and raised in Bristol, Connecticut, an incredibly safe city that is known for being the home of ESPN and having incredibly wealthy neighborhoods. But living in a nice area couldn't save Aaron from the hell he was enduring at home. Aaron quickly became a standout star in football and basketball at Bristol High School, and his father played a massive part of that success. He and his father would train every single day to complete his hopes of one day entering the NFL draft. His father was also known around town as the King, a superstar running back at the same school just 2 decades earlier. But out of the view of the public, Aaron's father was an alcoholic and severely abusive to the entire family. On multiple occasions, Aaron would be woken up to his mother and brother being beaten on a weekly basis after a long day of drinking. In January of 2006, his father suddenly passed away in routine hernia surgery, and he was completely destroyed. Even though Aaron hated his dad at times, he was the only person there to give him structure, the only one to make sure he walked the straight line so he could reach his dreams. According to his mother, Aaron was heavily affected by his father's death, and he acted out his grief by rebelling against authority figures. To Aaron's shock, his mother, just 5 weeks later, moves a new man into the house, and Aaron is completely furious. He quickly moves out of the house and stays with his close cousin Tanya, where he would be introduced to drugs, parties, and criminals who lived a completely different life. After his senior season that same year, Hernandez was named Connecticut's Gatorade Football Player of the Year. He also earned a spot on the East team in the U.S. Army All-American Bowl after making 67 catches for 1,807 yards and 24 touchdowns his senior year. And in what was a complete surprise to his older brother, who at the time was starting quarterback at UConn University, Aaron makes a sporadic trip to Florida to tour the University of Florida campus. College football makes an ungodly amount of money, and with Florida pulling in $190 million just last year, you can say these players are unbelievably important to the university. This can cause major problems around campus, as players can basically get away with doing anything with little repercussions. In Aaron's freshman year at Florida, he had already started getting into trouble. In April of 2007, a bartender at the Swamp claimed Hernandez, who was only 17 at the time, had punched him in the face for simply asking to pay the bill. The fight escalated even more when bouncers pushed him out of the bar and caused a complete chaotic scene on University Avenue. But all of these charges were quickly dropped. Aaron had a few more altercations with students in the coming months around campus, and again was never punished for these acts. It was almost like Aaron thought he was invincible, with the backing of a $200 million university that protects their players more than the town itself. On September 30th, 2007, around 2:20 a.m., Gainesville residents Randall Kaysen, Justin Glass, and Corey Smith were driving in a 1997 Ford Crown Victoria after leaving the popular club The Venue. Records show that Kaysen and his friends got into an altercation with a group of University of Florida football players at some point during the night. Kaysen told police a black Chevy Tahoe pulled up behind the vehicle he was riding in, at a red light on West University Avenue. He said 2 men then stepped out of the Tahoe. He claims the Hawaiian-looking man pulled out a gun and fired 4 to 5 shots into the passenger side of the Crown Victoria. Glass was shot in the arm, and Smith was shot in the head. They were rushed to the hospital, where Smith had a piece of his skull removed to prevent further swelling. Aaron was ultimately brought in for questioning, but the police had no leads besides a vague description of the shooter. Aaron at this time would feel that he could get away with absolutely anything in Florida, and really got a taste of what it felt like to be untouchable. It is at this moment that quite possibly ruined Aaron's life. With the combination of no consequences for his actions and a developing brain injury from the harsh hits he had taken on the field during his high school and college years, Aaron would declare for the NFL draft as a ticking time bomb. During Aaron Hernandez's draft process, multiple teams were completely aware of his troubles down in Florida. Because of this, he dropped all the way to the 4th round and was drafted by the New England Patriots. Some would say this was the perfect spot for Hernandez, being that the Patriots are by far the strictest franchise in the world, and New England thought they had the steal of the draft. But they very soon find out he's incredibly close to home in Connecticut, which is only a 2-hour drive from Gillette Stadium. During his first couple of months at New England, he had already failed multiple drug tests and had problems with some of the other players on the team. They described him as impulsive and very loud within the locker room. It was also widely reported within the staff that Hernandez was not building relationships with his teammates very well and had problems with multiple people within the organization. As the months went by in New England, Hernandez and Gronk began taking over games. They were an unstoppable force, and Aaron was playing insanely well. But behind the scenes, Aaron is dealing with multiple injuries during this time, including multiple concussions that were not reported by the team. He also had other injuries he would deal with on a weekly basis over the next 2 years, in which he needed to be shot up with Toradol to even take the field for games. He reached his childhood dream in his sophomore season, making it to the Super Bowl with legend Tom Brady, but lost to the New York Giants 21-17 in a stunner. Just 6 months later, he signs the deal of his life for $40 million and is able to finally take care of his family for the rest of their lives. But in just 2 years in the NFL, Aaron's body is already beaten up and severe headaches are bothering him daily. To cope with this, he smokes drugs most days, even before entering the Patriots facility during the week for practice. Over the last 5 years, Aaron Hernandez has achieved his lifelong dream of making it to the NFL, signing a $40 million contract, and killed 2 people, all while evading police the entire time. So why was he never made a suspect in any of these shootings? For the Florida shooting, there was little to no evidence tying Aaron to the shooting. Randall Kaysen, the one eyewitness that ID'd Aaron, rescinded his statement about the shooting in what was a massive mystery to investigators. There was a rumor on campus that said the university had talked to him about dropping the eyewitness account, and being that Aaron was one of the top players at the university, Randall probably felt pressured by students and teachers alike about doing so. For the Boston shooting, police also had little to go on. Just a silver SUV that was seen speeding away from the intersection. Aaron Hernandez was seen that night inside the club on security cameras, but investigators could not believe someone with so much to lose would be involved in such a cold-blooded murder. As a result of this, he wasn't even questioned. This is another example of being in such a place in his life of fame and money. He was getting away with anything he wanted to. Aaron started becoming very paranoid after the Boston shooting. He had a no iPhone rule among his circle of friends, thought helicopters were following him, and feared law enforcement was onto him. Hernandez and best friend Bradley's friendly relationship fell apart during a trip to South Florida in February of 2013 to attend a Super Bowl party. At a bar, Hernandez pointed to some men who he said looked like police officers. "If they are, it's because of the stupid shit you did up in Boston," Bradley said back. This comment caused Aaron Hernandez to become upset, even starting to think Bradley could be in on it. Later that night, Bradley rode home from the bar with Hernandez and other passengers, and they got into a heated argument. As Bradley woke up during the long ride home, he saw Aaron with a gun to his face. Hernandez then proceeded to pull him out of the car and left him to die. Bradley would miraculously survive the shooting and cause the beginning of the end for Aaron Hernandez. Now dealing with evading police on a daily basis, Aaron also had to worry about Bradley getting revenge and ending his life. This is when Aaron installed a $20,000 security system and started hiring guys with guns to be around him at all times. These were the same men he had met at his cousin Tanya's house after leaving his childhood home abruptly. His paranoia became so bad at one point, Aaron goes to Bill Belichick of the Patriots and demands a trade, citing he felt unsafe in New England. It was rumored Bill told him no immediately and to get back to practice. In those next months, Aaron would rent out a separate apartment somewhere within New England and constantly felt like the police were on his trail. June 17, 2013, 2:33 a.m. Aaron Hernandez, Ernest Wallace, and Carlos Ortiz pick up Odin Lloyd in a rental car at his residence. Moments later, Odin texts his sister, "I'm with NFL, just so you know." At this moment, Odin is feeling uncomfortable and is severely worried about the feeling within the car. Exactly 1 hour later, the four are almost at Aaron's house before they make an abrupt detour down an abandoned road. As they come to a halt, Aaron immediately turns around and shoots Odin point blank within the car. Only injured, Odin opens the door and starts to run away from the car. Aaron Hernandez follows him, shooting him 5 more times and leaving him for dead. Immediately after the shooting, Hernandez, Wallace, and Ortiz speed away from the scene and arrive back at Aaron's just 60 seconds later. It was thought that Aaron started to believe Odin knew too much about his previous murders and possibly could set him up to be killed by Avery. So his paranoia-infested mind thought this was the right thing to do. In all the crimes Hernandez had committed over the last 5 years, he had never made a mistake once and expertly avoided the police at all costs. This crime was much different. When Odin Lloyd's body was found just 1 minute down the road, Aaron was the prime suspect for the first time. And when we saw the iconic scene of him walking out of his Boston mansion on the morning of June 26th, the world nearly lost their minds. The police had mounds of evidence on Aaron and called it one of the most sloppiest murders they had seen before. It was apparent Aaron had tried to wipe the entire security footage at his home the night of Odin's murder, but he had missed some key time frames. Aaron is seen returning to the house just 1 minute after the shooting occurred. He is also seen inside the home holding the presumed murder weapon. Police also learned that when he returned the rented vehicle, there was one shell case still within the vehicle, and Aaron's DNA was found at the scene of the crime from a rolled Swisher Sweet. The rental car's tires also matched the tracks found at the murder scene. This was the beginning of the end of Aaron's 5-year reign of mayhem. Aaron Hernandez went from a 7,100 square foot mansion to a 7 by 10 foot cell in an instant. He was immediately placed under suicide watch at Bristol County House of Corrections, but to everyone's surprise, he adapted well to jail. It was almost as if the world had been lifted off his shoulders, and for the first time in his life, no one else relied on him anymore. He was very respectful to all the officers working at Bristol and even requested Harry Potter books to read in his free time. He would be allowed 2 hours per day out of his cell where he would train and lift weight, hoping to make a return back to the NFL. The trial became a whirlwind of media. After all, this was the first time a professional athlete had ever been convicted of killing multiple people during the week and playing on the big stage by the weekend. At first, Patriot fans stood by him, not believing one of their beloved players could ever do such a thing. The defense went down the route of blaming the other 2 men in the car that night and claimed Aaron was only a witness to the murder. But this didn't work out so well. And after a week of deliberations, Aaron had been convicted of killing Odin Lloyd. Being accused and sentenced for his crimes, the Patriots would not have to pay the remaining millions to his family. Because of this, he started exploring ideas of how he could overturn this process. Aaron Hernandez ended up taking his own life when he found a very old Massachusetts law that would guarantee his family receive all of the money remaining on his contract. With Hernandez's death, his legal slate was virtually wiped clean due to a little-known rule. Although mere days before his death he'd been acquitted of the 2012 double murder of which he'd also been charged, Hernandez continued to serve out a life sentence. However, he'd been in the process of appealing his conviction of the Lloyd murder before he died, and in the weeks following his death, his legal team filed to have his conviction thrown out, citing a little-known legal loophole known as abatement ab initio. The principle, which was birthed in the 19th century, dictates that when a defendant dies before his process of appeal is complete, then the slate is essentially wiped clean. This was of course overturned when the state argued the rule was outdated, and the Hernandez family never received another dime from the Patriots. When Aaron's brain was donated to science, it was discovered he was suffering from the most severe CTE ever found in a young person of his age. CTE, which has 4 stages, is a progressive illness found in athletes and others who have suffered repeated concussions and other brain trauma. It is associated with dementia, mood changes, and aggression. In addition to deposits of the protein tau, which is associated with CTE, other evidence of the disease ranged across Hernandez's brain. That included dilated ventricles, the chambers storing spinal fluid, which indicate the brain had shrunk, and atrophied fornix, nerves associated with memory. All of these caused by repetitive brain trauma. Thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe for more videos like this, and please let us know what you think in the comments.